What's up, everyone? So today I am going to share with you my experience of the nclex-rn. So I took the nclex on October 25th of this year, 2016, and I only relied on an app called uworld, and that's just a question bank. So there are a total of 1,900 questions. I went through each and every question, read each and every rationale, tried memorizing and studying each rationale so that I can get a good enough understanding to help me pass. So I read so many good reviews on uworld helped me pass, just uworld. I was averaging between 54% or higher, and it helped me pass in 75 questions. So me, as I was going through the question bank, I was doing like maybe scoring high 40s, low 50s in the beginning, but as I kept reading the rationales, learning, adapting, and all that to these type of questions, and learning how to kind of eliminate some of the answer choices, I felt like I was gaining so much knowledge. Although I gained a lot of the knowledge from nursing school, I felt like I gained a lot more through the question bank, because it actually helped me, showed me how to answer questions. So my NCLEX, I took a total number of 265 questions, which is the maximum amount of questions you can take in the NCLEX, with a minimum of 75. So the way it works is, it's a computer adaptive test. So the way it works is, if you do really well or really bad, it'll shut off at 75 minimum. And if you're like kind of in between, like not really doing so bad but not really doing passing, it'll keep giving you a chance until like 265 questions and then as you end at 265, that's basically like a 50-50% of 50-50 chance of passing or failing. So the way I saw it was that, as you go through the questions, if you get the question correct, since it's a computer adaptive test, as you get the question correct, the question gets harder and harder and harder, and it just gets harder as you keep getting them correct. But if you get it wrong, it goes to an easier question. So the pattern of my questions felt like, okay, it was like, okay, it started off easy, then it got hard, and I kept getting all these hard questions, and I was like, whoa, I'm doing really well. I read on the internet some, you're not supposed to trust the internet, but I read on how the pattern of the testing is for the NCLEX, and how you're doing well. So as I was taking the NCLEX, I was like, oh, I'm doing pretty well, pretty well. And the night before, I had a hard time sleeping. I guess I kept thinking about the test, and I was like, I really want to pass this test. And I was thinking about the future and how it would be as an RN if I failed. So for those of you who don't know, my son unfortunately passed away about 4 months ago this year. He had a metabolic disorder, so he actually died from some of the complications that were common in the disorder. So as I tried to sleep the night before, I couldn't, and I ended up only getting about 3.5 hours of sleep before the test. My wife made me nice breakfast, so I ate breakfast, and I was so pumped and ready. So going back to the question bank was like, or not the question bank, but the NCLEX, the test itself, the pattern that it was showing me is like, okay, I'm doing really well because all these questions were really hard. So I was like, okay, I'm expecting it to stop at 75 questions. So as I kept going on, got to number 75. Here I'm all excited, like, okay, this might be the last question and I might end up passing, because people in the uworld, the reviews were saying, oh, it helped me pass in 75 questions. So many great reviews on uworld, and I only solely depended on uworld to help me. And I went through the whole 1,900 questions in the question bank, read the rationales, and I felt like I was ready. I was motivated, came in. So as I clicked next on question number 75, it goes to question number 76. So I was kind of shocked, like, what's going on? Right when it hit question number 76, I had to take a breather because it was a little shocking. So those of you who are planning on taking the NCLEX, or want to prepare for it mentally, do not, I repeat, do not expect to stop at 75 because you will get shocked. Some people will start crying, so I heard, and for me, I was shocked because I was so motivated, and I felt like I was just ready, so ready for this test. How many hours I put into studying every day. So I was just, shocked. But on the other hand, I said, well, if we can stop at 80, let's keep going. Kept going. Ended up getting to a, question 100. After I answered question number 100, click next. And it goes to number 101. And here I am thinking, scratching my head and like wondering what the heck's going on. The way the pattern was showing in the test was that I was doing really well, right? Because all these hard questions kept coming up. And, I'm pretty okay, answering the questions, especially what I learned from uworld. And I also looked at some YouTube videos on how to eliminate answers, and I also learned from nursing school how to eliminate answers when answering these kind of questions, the NCLEX style questions. And I felt I was doing really well. Like, I knew all the content that came up, and I was so shocked. Like, how come it's still going? So I was like, okay, stay motivated. I bowed my head for a bit, prayed to God, saying, please, God, please let me pass this test. I'm trying to do this for my son and for the future of my family. I dedicated this effort and all of this to my son, just as I did for nursing school, because we knew he didn't have long to live. So I struggled through nursing school, trying to juggle so many things with the Army National Guard, also juggling the sport of bowling, because I compete competitively, and also I had my son who had gotten sick so many times, took him to the hospital so many times, and I was just dedicating this test to him. I said, what, I'm gonna pass for you, Daddy's gonna do it. So I was kind of, after I passed 100 questions, I was kind of like begging God, please, God, I'm doing this for my son, please help me pass. And I also prayed to my son and said, please, my baby, please help Daddy pass. Daddy wants to make you proud, and Daddy promised that he will keep pushing to accomplish many things, in your name. And I was just kind of at the edge of, I was so desperate to pass. I was like, please, please, please. I was so mad because I kept going, went up to number 150, actually got to like number 120, and so the computer offers me a break, the first break, and I refused it. It said, no, I'm going to take my break at 150 questions, and I hope it shuts off at 150. So got to number 150, click next. It goes to number 151. So here I am, scratching my head, on the brink of punching the computer because I was so mad. I was kind of mad at myself. I was so confident coming in thinking I was going to pass. So I was so mad, and honestly, I was just, so many things were running through my head, like, you might end up being a failure. Here you are promising your son you're going to pass the first time. So I said, you know what, take a break. I took my first break at 150 questions, and usually when I hit 100 questions when I'm studying, I usually start getting tired and have to take a break. But I got to 150 without getting tired. So I took a break, went outside, took some sips of water, used the restroom, and I was doing some cardio, jogging in place, throwing my arms around the area, The lady at the desk was kind of laughing because, I was like, I need to get some blood flow to my head because I know I'm going to start falling asleep. So I started jogging. When I felt I was ready, it's like, okay, please, Lord, please. Help refresh my mind, help me get in there, finish strong. Let's do this, 200 questions. Went in, got to number 200. Click next. It's like, this might be the end of it. Click. Yeah, number 201 comes up. So here I am, like, I'm like, are you serious? I looked at the time, almost 3 hours of sitting there answering questions, and my wife is waiting outside in the car. The car is probably running for 3 hours straight. So I'm like, you know what? Oh my gosh, I better do something about it. So I said, let's go. 200 questions, right? And then after I got to like number 220, that's when I started giving up. Like, I can't believe I've gone this far in the NCLEX. How the heck did I get this far with all this confidence and all this knowledge and all this, these countless amount of hours I spent studying so hard for this one day, and all the dedication I put into this, the effort of passing this test. I was so pissed, and I was kind of like giving up. I was on the brink of giving up. Like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. And, I looked up and I said, my son, I am so sorry. If I fail, I am so, so sorry. I already knew my reaction was going to be like, if I failed, I knew I would have broke down crying. Would have went to the cemetery, went to my son and apologized. I would have cried so much, broke down. I would have felt like the biggest failure in the world. Honestly. All these years, took me 6 years to graduate from nursing school. And honestly, and my son with his condition, all the time I spent away, all the sacrifices I made away from him, spending time away from him in nursing school to get to this point. And I said, you know what? I sacrificed all of this for what? For the fact that I might not even pass this test, might not even ever become a registered nurse, might take me 2 or 3 tries, hopefully passing the NCLEX on this third, fourth try, whatever it takes. I said, I'm not going to give up no matter what. I'm going to keep taking the test. But I knew if I failed this, I was going to just have a really bad breakdown, depression for God knows how long. So what I ended up doing at 220, kind of gave up. But that's when looking at the time, and I was supposed to drop my wife to work I was supposed to leave at 11:30. So I looked up at the time, 220 questions. I looked at the time, I was like, oh crap, I only have about 20 minutes until 11:30. So here I am clicking away, still answering the questions, but not taking my time to read everything like I was with the previous question. So I said, okay, let me just click, whatever happens, happens, right? I'm like, I can't believe I got this far already. This is basically a fail to me because I was expecting to finish 75 questions at maximum 150. So if you're going to go into this test, a tip would be to expect just to answer to 265. If you finish at 75, congrats to you. That's a little bonus for your hard efforts to get past this test. So I went through the whole 265 questions, and I was just like, I can't believe I got to 265. It took me 3.5 hours. As I was going out of the testing area, I told the lady, I'll see you in about 45 days again. She's like, why do you say that? I was like, I don't feel so confident anymore in this test. I even told her I don't think I'll take 6 hours. I didn't take 6 hours, 3.5 hours for 265 questions. And I said, you know what? I might see you in the next 45 days. Because I didn't feel so confident. She's just like, well, there's always next time. You can always try next time. There's always a second chance. So I said, I guess. So right when I went out, texted my wife saying, I took the whole 265 questions. That means I only have a 50% chance of passing. So I texted everyone else, my parents, my class, my group, my classmates. Texted them, sorry guys, I might be the first failure because our class was already like I think 75% of our class already took the NCLEX, and they all passed. So I wanted to keep that 100% pass rate going. So I said, sorry guys, I took the whole 265 questions. Don't know if I'm gonna pass or not. So as I got in the car with my wife, waiting 3.5 hours in my car, as I was dropping her to work, she said, how do you think you did? And I was like, honestly, I was so confident. I thought I was doing well, but I don't know why the heck it went up to 265 questions. I just don't know anymore. I was kind of like throwing a bit of attitude, and she's like, she's like, I don't want to go to work anymore. I'm so nervous. I really want you to pass. I was like, okay. Dropped her to work. She was texting me saying, I really hope you pass. I have so much confidence in you. Even, everyone, like my in-laws were saying, we have confidence in you. You're going to pass. Everyone's saying I'm going to pass. Don't worry about it. I'm going to pass. So I was like, okay. So dropped her to work, went home, and looked at the time saying, I'll give it 2 hours until I go to the licensing office to see if I passed or not. So at 2 o'clock p.m., 2:30, around there, drove myself to licensing office. Didn't feel nervous at all for the results, like whatever. Got into the office, saw my classmate there. She was waiting for her results. So I sat down also, and that's when, she got her letter, and then it showed she passed, and then she was like on the verge of crying and tears of joy, and I was like, congratulations, congratulations. Right when she left and it was my turn, I gotta tell you, I was so nervous, super nervous. I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do if I fail? If I fail, I know I'm gonna break down. I'm gonna be so, I'm gonna be like, no, what am I? All this sacrifice for nothing. I spent so much time away from my son, which I could have spent with him for his, his short life that he had on this earth. I said, you know what? This is all. If I fail, I basically did, I sacrificed so much time away from him for what? To fail? I was like, everything, all these thoughts started running in my head. I was like, please, God, please help me pass. And I was even praying to my baby. I was like, please help Daddy pass. Daddy wants to continue making you proud, and Daddy wants to help save lives, and Daddy wants to do this and do that. And I kind of think I was bribing God a bit. So I said, I'll be nicer. I'll be a nicer person. Please just let me pass. So as a lady called me up, she's like, okay, Mr. St. Nicholas. So I was walking up slowly. I was like, gosh, like already on the verge of crying, thinking I'm going to fail. So she points, and I don't see what she's pointing at, and she says, good job. I was like, what are you talking about? Good job. So I look down, and it says, congratulations, you had passed your NCLEX registered nurse. And then I was like, are you serious? Are you serious? And then she flips the next page saying that, she's like, here's evidence that you passed, so it shows you passed. You are a registered nurse, right? So I was kind of like so relieved. I was like, a lot of deep breathing. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I passed. No, usually for me, if I pass, I don't go like throwing so much joy around the room, like, oh, here's some joy. I was honestly so relieved. The whole time I was nervous, waiting for my results, and all this, negativity going through my head, saying I'm a failure. I let my son down, I let my family down. And I said, I was like, whew. The lady was explaining some of the procedures and all that on how to renew license and all that, and I kind of totally like blocked her out. So after she explained the whole process for like a minute, I was like, wait, what? And she was like, oh, it's okay. I know you're excited, but here's the whole thing. So she repeated it and said, if you have any questions, please read this paper and all that. So I was, honestly, the feeling I had the day I passed, which is crazy. So as I walk out of the office, call my wife, I was like, hello. Because, I was on the verge of crying. I was so happy and so relieved. I was like, hello. And then she's like, so, and, it was that awkward silence for about 10-15 seconds. And I was kind of debating, should I tell her I failed, just to kind of, get these, just to make her think. But then me, deep down, I was so excited. And I was just like, I gotta tell her. So I was like, I passed. And then I started tearing a bit. I was like, oh my gosh. And she was like, all teary too. She's like, I'm gonna cry right now. And I was like, I can't believe it. Can you believe that I'm actually a registered nurse? Your husband is a registered nurse. And I said, I hope my baby's proud of me. So after that, went down to the cemetery to, visit my baby, and I told him, I broke down saying, you were supposed to be here when Daddy passes his test, but, God had other plans for you. I I hope you're proud of Daddy. Daddy's gonna continue pushing, continue saving lives, continue, accomplishing all these things in your name. I said, Daddy almost let you down today. So I was like praying, saying, thank you, Lord. Thank you for all the blessings. So the end of the day, we celebrated, and the whole day I kept freaking out, like, can't believe I'm a registered nurse. I'm a registered nurse. It's crazy. I'm licensed to save lives now. So the whole point of this video was to share my experience on my NCLEX and taking 265 questions that you still have a chance of passing. Don't think negatively. You just got to keep pushing through those questions. Do not just whatever answer a. No, you got to take your time and be grateful for just being able to live and take the test. Pass or fail, you always have another chance. So also a little thing to take away from this, if you guys are watching and you plan on taking uworld, use the uworld app, because I solely relied on the uworld app. The uworld app is great, so fantastic. It helped me, right? Out of the whole 265 questions, I had about 4 questions I did not know any of the answers. Like, I don't know which one it is. All the other questions I already knew the answer, or I was choosing between 2 answers to be the answer. So I was like, no, I was so prepared. The uworld helped me so much. But unfortunately for me, it would have helped if I went outside of the uworld app. That would have helped so much. So if you're watching this and you're looking for some tips to pass NCLEX, uworld is awesome. It's great. It's go through the whole question bank, finish it, try to answer everything correctly, so you know why it's correct, why it's wrong. And you're gonna need to go outside of uworld. Look for another question bank. Read some like books. I had a great nursing course that offered a book that is like priority questions and delegation questions, like a booklet. Honestly, that book would help if you have priority, delegation, all those other books. uworld covers so much, but there's only so much it can cover. So honestly, just you have to go outside of uworld if you want to pass. Some people can pass with just uworld, but for me personally, it would have helped me pass sooner, or like 75 questions if I went outside uworld. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck in your NCLEX. If you're just watching to kind of share my experience, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I upload some other videos that could be interesting. If this was boring, I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned with the other videos.